Good morning, everyone. I assume you're watching this in the morning because it's morning for me. But today we got a zoo deck. I promised no more Whip of Ereboses in standard for at least quite some time, and the Fate Reforged spoilers are rolling in, so that's pretty exciting. And I think it's time to just shift the focus away from con standard a little bit because pretty soon it's not going to be all that relevant. I know that there are some PTQs happening, but the Whip deck is probably the best deck if you want to beat that, play Abzan aggro. And that's about it, I think. But we got some Tarmogoyfs, some Decatals, and some other very difficult to cast Siege Rhinos and Geist of St. Traffs. And we're just playing the full 5 colors, mostly because we can, because who's stopping us? You know, we got, 13 fetches and a bunch of dual lands, plus we have some Tribal Flames. So I like this deck. 2 reasons. Zoo is good. People think it's not good, but it is. You're kind of like a Jund deck, especially when it's built like this, except your curve is much lower. And I have certainly had enough games with Jund where I have like ETB tap lands, or I can't afford to take damage because my deck doesn't do anything, and I'm like really slow to get out of the gates and everything. And this deck is like, well, I don't care if I take damage, because I'm gonna play this Nicodle and start hitting you with that, and you're basically like equalizing at that point. So whereas the Jund, Abzan, whatever decks start behind, and they have a tough time like catching up and like closing the gap on the life point discrepancy. You know, like you're behind by 5, and it's like kind of a close race, but it's like you have no way to really catch up except for maybe Siege Rhino. But even then, you might have to like fetch a shock land to cast it, so you're even breaking even. But this deck is just like, it starts quick and early, and if they're trying to like abrupt decay your wild Nicodles, or even now like Disfigure or Dismember are the 1-mana removal spells of choice, maybe even Dark Blast, it's just like you are not winning that fight. If you're trading, like if we're both fetching duels and you're trading 2 mana for my 1 mana, you are in trouble. So I like this deck for that reason. Playing the full 5 colors gives us access to things like Abrupt Decay, Band Charm, a bunch of cool sideboard options. Plus we still have really cheap Lightning Bolts, Path to Exiles. And another thing I really like about this deck is the inclusion of Noble Hierarch and the 5th Noble Hierarch, the Honorary, little Bird of Paradise here. And that allows us to play things like Geist of St. Traft much earlier. In this case, 1 full turn earlier, which is a lot. We also have some Siege Rhinos, so this deck is just playing like the most powerful cards in Modern, as long as we're talking about like creatures and removal. So mana base just kind of is what it is. I'm not sure if there's like a better dual lane configuration or a better fetch lane configuration, and I am pretty stupid. I haven't played Zoo in a while, so you're going to be watching these videos going like, dude, obviously you play this fetch land and go get this land with it, and I'm going to be like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I think figuring out how to play the deck is fairly simple. You're mostly operating at sorcery speed, and it's just like, okay, I have this spell, or I have these 2 spells. What do I play this turn? The real tough stuff comes with fetching your mana, and I might be struggling with that until I just kind of like shake the rust off. But we'll see. Forgot to mention, this deck was designed by Manu S, a buddy of mine, underrated deck designer, and he's been doing pretty well in the Modern daily events with it, and he might have, or I might have a daily digest up with his deck. I think it's over here. I guess you're not on the front page, but it's like this way at the top of the select thing. And I did a daily digest on that, and I was like, some of these daily digests I just do, and it's like, man, I want to play that deck. Sometimes I play with it, but this one I'm actually doing a video on because I really do think this deck is good, so we'll see. But, yeah, you just play big things and kind of just crush them. I like that. I compared this deck to like a Jund or an Abzan deck because it has a lot of answers to problematic permanents, and a lot of the games are just like, I play a threat, I deal with your somewhat problematic threats and ignore the rest and just kill you. And this deck has that, and it's not like a Curd Ape Zoo deck where you're just like, alright, turn 2, I have 3 1-drops, and I just have to like kill your big guy or whatever. This deck is like, I'm fine playing a Nikotl and just chilling for a while. Maybe I have a Noble Hierarch, maybe I'm hitting you for 4, and I'll just like, Band Charm your weird card, Abrupt Decay your weird card, and it's modern. There are a lot of weird cards out there. So this deck has a lot of answers to a lot of stuff. All of its cards are very powerful, and it is very rare that you draw a card on like turn 6 and a spell, and you're just like, man, this card is not very good. Like, I could see diminishing returns on like the Noble Hierarchs, or like maybe Path against a creatureless deck or whatever, but for the most part, it's like you draw a spell and you're like, whoa, this card would be like the best card in some other modern deck, and I just happen to have a bunch of these cards in my deck. So the threat density is very high, the power level is very high, and yeah, that's about it. As for the sideboard, his sideboard's weird. He changed a couple stuff between the 2 daily events. I think this is the more updated list than you'll see in the Daily Digest. But if you remember PT Philadelphia, the first Modern Pro Tour, Josh Erling got second with Countercat. And it's kind of like this deck, He's got a bunch of counterspells on the sideboard. They all do different things, Unified Will is probably good against most combo decks. You're going to have more creatures than them. This is just hard counterspell, but maybe in other matchups you want something that is not relying on you having creatures. Maybe you also want some stuff that's 1 mana, because when you have double counterspell, you don't want to have to keep them at 4 mana. So, Stubborn Denial, pretty adorable with Tarmogoyf. Also Siege Rhino, and those are the only things that really turn it on, at least on your opponent's turn. Like, you might be able to trick them with like an Angel Token or some Exalted Triggers or whatever, but that'll probably only work once, Swan Song 2/2 is kind of annoying, but this is 1 mana, and I don't think you can really afford to play multiple, so I like that he only has 1. And Flash Freeze, which was another card that they played at PT Philly for the majority of the combo decks, because they were red or green. They had like Primeval Titan or Rite of Flame and stuff, so I like the counterspell selection. Maybe it ends up being where, like, Flash Freeze is worse than Unified Will or whatever, but it's cool, and you get to sideboard into this deck, so it's pretty sweet. A couple Creeping Corrosions, he added those. I assume he lost to Affinity once or twice. A couple of Golgari Charms, good against Young Pyromancer. Probably some other stuff. I'm not sure if you would, like, bring this in against Affinity. It's, like, kind of tough to cast and doesn't get all their manlands and stuff. You don't really want to have to keep mana open. Crackling Doom's a weirdo, but presumably for like other rhinos, and you get to hate on Boggles a little bit. And then Timely Reinforcements for Burn, Lingering Soul for grindy matchups. The only thing that I really probably change about this deck off the bat is just cut a Bant Charm. 3 Bant Charms is so many, and 3 is a lot of mana, so I don't know what I would want. I would probably want another threat, but do you want like the 3rd Pride Mage? No, I don't think so. Like, I like the 2 Path, 2 Decay, 2 Pride Mage, and I would like 2 Bant Charm as well. I'm just not sure what to play. So maybe it's something like play a Forked Bolt or whatever, but who knows. That's it though. I'm gonna have fun playing this deck. I think it's really good, and hopefully we don't lose, because then I'll look kind of silly.